What's up everyone? Today we're going to look at another idea of creating passive income for you as a designer. We're going to be creating an icon set together. We're going to be using Figma for the whole process and a little sprinkle of ChatGPT just to make it interesting. Let's jump in. To start off, I want us to look at the 6 key things we need to keep in mind when creating our icon set. Number 1, consistency is key. All of our icons need to look like they live in the same set, in the same family. So we can't have one with broken paths, one with like 3D coloring, and one with multiple colors in it. Everything needs to be super consistent. Number 2, something that people don't really think about when it comes to consistency is the visual weight. We're going to be using strokes and paths for all of this when we are creating our icons, and we need to keep it consistent. So always use the same stroke width, the same corner radiuses, all of that. Number 3, to help us with the consistency and with the weight, we're going to be relying on geometric shapes as much as possible. If we can build it using shapes and then just tweak it a little bit, we're going to do that. Number 4, keep it on point, meaning we're going to use rounded numbers as much as possible. Also, we're going to be looking at putting our vectors on a rounded number on the X and the Y grid in Figma. That will make it easier when exporting. Number 5, keep it clear and simple. We don't need to make our icons with loads and loads of detail in it. We can keep it really clean and simple and minimal. Number 6, and you know I always do this, keep it organized. We need everything to be super organized within our layers, because when we export it, the naming will carry over. And when someone buys this later on, they're gonna be really pleased to know that everything is really neatly organized and they can find the layers and know what they're clicking on. With these 6 rules in mind, let's jump in to make an icon. So as promised, we're going to be making some icons together, but which icons should we make? And for this, we're going to use our trusty little friend, ChatGPT. So I'm just going to ask it, which icons should be included in a 50 icon set? So ChatGPT is going to just spit up some ideas for us because it's absolutely genius. And we're going to use these and copy these into Figma. I used this when I was creating my set that I'm going to go through today. So feel free to look at this. You can also ask it like a themed thing, like I'm creating an icon set for a travel brand. What icons are must-haves? Super, super simple. In the link in the description box, you will find a link to a Figma file that has this guide in it. This is a classic icon grid using some key shapes and some general guides. The way I built this, you can turn everything on and off from the design panel. So for example, if you don't want to see the paddings anymore, or you don't want to see the guide, you can just toggle that off. But I would really recommend having everything on. Also, while we're creating our icons, I really recommend when you're using this instance, just frame it, and then inside of the frame, just lock the guide. That means that when you create something inside of the frame, it still snaps to this grid, but you won't be clicking it by accident. Before we start, I just want to make sure that my grid is visible. So I'm going to click on my instance, go to layout grid, and then add a 1 pixel grid. And I'm going to change it from red to something like this. Perfect. Let's start by using the most basic method to create the most basic icon, the home icon. So I'm going to click on P, and then I'm just going to use this kind of line between the blue and the gray. So I'm going to start from about here, go all the way to intersect with red, probably over here, holding down shift to get a straight line, all the way up here. Great. So that's going to be the bottom of my house. Now I want to create the roof. So I need to get away from this pen tool right here. So I'm going to click on escape, and then start creating the other lines. I'm gonna go with this green over here, all the way up and to here. Great. Click on V and then double click out. Now I see that I am not really within any of these 1 bounds, and I want to keep it inside of one of them. So I am gonna hold it from the side, holding down Option and Shift, and that will make it grow inward from the center. Once I snap to something, so I see I'm snapping right now, that's perfect for me. And then I probably want to adjust it from the design panel. Like we said before, keep it on point. So instead of 1604, I'm going to say 16. Instead of 1507, I'm going to say 15. And then just center it using the align tools. Perfect. Now I can see that I've got this 0.1 corner radius. I'm going to try and just use a rounded number, so using 1. And that is our first icon done. How simple was that? Second icon we're going to create is the heart icon, and with this one we're going to be using a bit of a more advanced thing with our pen tool. Let's click on P. We're going to start off probably about here. Then I'm going to create really just straight lines. This will make sense in a bit. I'm going to go in the middle between gray and gray, so just over here, then probably this intersection, and then all the way down here. Then I'm going to mimic it exactly the same on the other side. So I need the blue and gray over here, and then the middle here, down here. So we're going to use the bend tool and mirroring on both sides to create that like rounded thing. And you'll see that really quickly, it's going to look like a heart. I'm going to click on Command and hold it down, click on this node, this node, this node, and this node. Getting there, right? I'm gonna click on V, then I'm just gonna play around with these handles. So I'm gonna tap on this node first and then just straighten this up a bit. I'm gonna do the same on the other side, grab this handle and just straighten it until it snaps down. Let's see what these handles do. So I'm gonna try and move this handle in a bit. Ooh, already looking like a heart. Yes, that's great. So I'm moving it until the top handle kind of touches red over here. Let's try it on this side as well. Just move it until top handle touches red. Okay. I feel like this one needs to move out a tiny bit. Maybe this one as well. So I just kept playing around with the handles until it looks perfect, and I think I kind of got a good shape. But essentially just keep moving the handles around, use that symmetry, and in the end you will get the perfect heart that you want. We've used our pen to create the last two icons. Now I want to show you how we can use the shape builder tool to help us with this icon set. So we're going to create a light bulb now, and the light bulb is made out of two shapes. We're going to make a circle first, clicking on O and then just holding down Shift to create a circle over here. I'm going to make it probably 12 by 12, center it, and then I want a rectangle, so clicking on R, and then I should probably make the rectangle about 4 pixels wide. Just make sure that it's 4 over here. Yeah. So now I want to combine these two, but before I do that, right now they're just on fill, but I want them to be a stroke. So I'm going to select both of them and then say Shift X, and that will change from fill to stroke. Just to help myself out, I'm going to make sure that this is kind of as intersecting as possible. So there's not too much of like just an empty space that I don't need later. I'm going to put that there. Great. Now selecting these two shapes, I'm going to use the shape builder tool up here, and I'm going to select Union Selection. It won't look like much, but in a second you'll see what we did. Inside of the layers panel, I'm going to select both of them. So enter to select all of the children, remove the stroke, go back to the union layer, take out the fill and add a stroke again. And that will give us a stroke of kind of the finalized union shape rather than the two that are inside. So this is already looking like a light bulb, but I want to make it even better. I want to get into that pen mode. In order to do that, I need to vectorize this. So Command E, and now the shapes don't exist inside of it anymore, it's just a vector. I'm going to double click to see what is happening here. So I see I don't have too many points, which is great. A lot of times when you union things, you get so many points and it just gets really complicated. But even if I zoom in, I only have 1 here. But I'm going to click on this node and then give it a bit of a rounded corner. So I'm going to say 1, already fancy. Lovely. Then maybe these two as well. Just select both of them and say 1. And then I'm just going to add another line in to make it fancy. So I'm going to double click in, just noticing as well, now that I double clicked into it, that this one is set to inside, and we decided that all of them are going to be set to center. So I'm just going to make sure to do that and then recheck the size of it. I think it's a bit too big. Yeah, maybe I'll make it 10 and 15. Yeah, that's great. So you see I'm sticking to this kind of orange line. It's kind of my guide. All of my items so far are sticking to this horizontal rectangle, so I want everything to go along with that sizing. So this is good for me. I might say actually 13 with the height. Perfect. And then double click inside, and I want to create another line just to make it fancy. Click on P and do just a 2 pixel line over here, and I'm going to make sure that the endpoint is rounded. Great, and that just gives it a bit more character. Let's try and use this shape builder in one more way. The settings gear is just 3 rectangles and 2 circles. Let me show you. Clicking on R, I'm gonna do a 4 pixel rectangle. I'm gonna go with the green as my guide over here, just like that. So I want it to be 4. Great. And then I'm going to give it 1 pixel rounded corners. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate that, Command D, and then holding down Shift, I'm just going to move it about 45-degree angle. I'm going to do that again, Command D, and 45 degrees to the other side. Maybe actually 60 degrees. Yeah, 60 degrees is better. Great. Now click on O, find kind of where the center is, and then hold down Shift and Option to grow a circle from the center until it intersects with our circle from the grid. Perfect. So I'm going to select all of these shapes and then Shift X to get an outline. Make sure that it's on center. Then we're going to do the same trick we just did. So we're going to Union, Enter to select all of the layers, remove the stroke, click on union, remove the fill, add the stroke. Now we just need to create one more circle. Click on O, in the middle, shift and option, get probably about a 5 pixel circle, shift X to get the stroke, make it black and centered. And then we're going to combine the two of these together, select both of them and Command E, and they're one vector. Now I want to make it a bit smaller just to fit in and be consistent with the others. So holding it from the corner, option and shift until it kind of intersects with that orange line. Great. I want to create one really rogue icon with you to show you how you can use all of these together. And we're going to create a rocket. So in order to create a rocket, we are going to use the pen tool. So clicking on P, 1 point on green over here, then 1 point about here, and then 1 point down here. That's it. I don't remember what this shape is called. Write down in the comments if you remember what this geometric shape is. Please tell me. Then click on V just to get over here. Holding down Command, we're going to round this guy and round this guy. Now, if you just double click out so you're not inside of the pen tool anymore, holding down Option, we're going to bring this in a tiny bit. Probably about there. That's already looking like a rocket, isn't it? Now we're going to create little wings over here. So clicking on P, and at this point, a lot of times we click in and then click on P. So we're adding onto this vector. This time I want us to create it outside so then we can combine it later on. I would really recommend doing this anytime you need exact symmetry on both sides. Create it on one side, duplicate, flip, and then vectorize everything together. So I'm going to double click so I'm not inside of this vector, click on P, and then somewhere about here, just create a sort of triangle really. Then click on V, and I want to just bend this in. So holding down Option, I'm going to bend this in like that. Maybe even bring this up a tiny bit. Maybe bend this one. Yeah, bring it up. Perfect. So now I have this little wing. I'm going to duplicate it, Command D, and then Shift H. We'll just flip it horizontally. Holding down Shift, I'm moving it over here. I've got a rocket. Then I want to create a little circle inside as kind of a window. Then I'm going to select all of these items and then Command E, and we've got a rocket. So we've now created these 5 icons in 5 different ways, showing you all of the little tricks. Now we're going to double all of this work and create 4 different styles. So I've gone ahead and created 45 different icons over here, and I've got a mix of, the essentials and also some non-essentials like rocket, food, tree. Just keeping it fun. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the grid from behind them. So I would really recommend duplicating this to another page before you start this. So I'm just going to open one of them, doesn't matter which, and then select this instance. I'm going to Command and slash and say select all with same instance. And that's going to select everything on the page that's using this instance. I'm just going to delete it. I don't need it anymore. I've still got the grid on here, so I'm going to Control and G, and that will just remove all of the layout grid so I don't see it anymore. And I have this white background behind them. I'm fine with that. I'm going to select all of them and just duplicate it. So Command A, holding down Option and Shift, and just dragging to duplicate everything. I'm going to go to my original ones and just group them so I know they're kind of locked away. Selecting all of these frames again, I'm going to click on Enter, and that will mean that I'm now selecting all the children, meaning I'm selecting all of the vectors. I want to make sure before I do this that every single icon is its own vector, so I don't have multiple vectors in one frame. Now I'm going to duplicate, so Command D, which means in every single frame I have 2 of these vectors. Now the duplicated vector would go on top, but I want it to be below because it's going to be our shadow. So I'm going to click on my left bracket, and look in the layers panel, it just jumps it down. And I want to give the background a different color. So I'm going to go into stroke and just give it a really bright color so you can see it to start off. Then using my arrow keys, I'm going to go 1 left, 1 down. That's a bit creepy. Let's give it a nice color now. I would really recommend do not use any opacity on this, because then when you export it, you never know where it's going to go. Just use a light color instead of using opacity if you want that effect. I'm kind of happy with the color I have. I'm going to click out and look at that. Oh, that's really nice. I really like it. Yeah, I think that's really good. So now we have the icons. Again, instead of 45, I now have 90. Ding, ding, ding. Let's look at one more thing that we can do. So I'm going to select all of these again, holding down Shift and Option, and just dragging over here and grouping this one. So now I want to create a version where the black outline is filled. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to select all of these, and then I only want to select the ones that are the black outline. So over here in the selection colors, I'm going to go to this kind of target, select the 45 that are using this color, and I'm going to give them a fill. So click on the fill, and that will just give them this kind of gray for now, and I'm going to keep that, and then I'm just going to go through and see if there are any fills that I want to remove. For example, the inside circle here doesn't need to have a fill. What I can do is double click in and then go to the paint bucket tool and just remove the inside. Click on V, zoom out, done. Let's have a look who else, probably the same over here. So I'm going to click on B to get to the paint tool, and you see that there's a little minus on that drop. Just remove that. Excellent. So I removed the inside fill from a few of them, and I can see that this one is the exact opposite has happened, and this section didn't get a fill. So clicking on B, this now has a plus, and I'll just add that on. Great. Now let's get rid of this ugly gray color. I really don't like it. So selecting all of them, and then in the selection colors, instead of this gray, I'm going to go for this purple. I like it. We have a version that's just outline, outline and shadow, fill and shadow. Let's create one that's just a fill. So selecting all of these, Shift and Option. Now we can select just the shadow layer by clicking on this over here and deleting it. Just like that, we have 4 different kinds of these icons. We created 45, and then super quickly we just quadrupled our work, and now we have 180 icons. I've organized our icons a tiny bit. Now we want to just name them in a way that's going to help us keep them organized inside of Figma, and this will help us with exporting as well. And we're going to do this super quickly with this amazing naming trick. We're going to name them how we will name them if they were variants. So we say property equals value, property equals value. So we're going to select all of them and then Command R and say fill equals, because fill is the first property we want to look at. So all of them fill equals, and then the ones that do have a fill, we're going to Command R and say current name. So fill equals space true. These ones, it's going to be Command R, current name, space false. So first property done. Select all of them and add the second property, Command R. We're going to say current name, and then comma, shadow equals. Then we're going to take the ones that do have a shadow, which are these ones and these ones, Command R, current name, true. These ones and these ones, Command R, current name, false. I'm going to create these into components, and the variants will already be there ready to go. I've just reorganized them a tiny bit so they are spread out in a way where I can grab one icon and go. So selecting all of the houses, go up here and say create component set. Boom, we have fill, true, false, shadow, true, false. And go on and do this for all of them. Now you may think, why am I even putting this into components? And the reason is, A, you might want to sell these on Figma or share them around in the community for people to use as components within their designs, and B, it helps you make them really organized, and C, it's neat and tidy. D, it helps you with exporting and creating sticker sheets. So now that they're all in components, I'm just gonna select all of them, enter, and then holding down Shift and Option, just drag all of them out onto here, onto this pre-made frame. This will bring them out in instances with all of the different variations already in there. I'm going to make this frame a bit bigger so all of them are inside. So now we have this kind of sticker sheet where we can say, look, here are all of our icons. And also this is now great for us for exporting. Let's export these now, which is going to create for us this asset that we can then upload to different platforms and sell online. So I'm going to use the same naming trick to give them a names before I actually export them, so then I can differentiate between them when they're in the folder. So I'm going to select the ones that have a shadow first of all. I'm going to select all the ones here that have a shadow. These ones have a shadow too. These ones have a shadow too. So I'm going to Command R. These ones will have the base name, which is just the name of the component, and then I'm going to say plus shadow. Great. Then I'm going to select all the ones that have a fill. Command R, current name plus fill, which means that the one that already have a shadow on them, you can see some of them are tree shadow plus fill, and then that's done. So we have those 4 different variations for us. Now I'm going to select all of them. So just enter to select all of these. go down to export, and I'm going to export them in 2 different ways. I'm going to export them once as a PNG, but we're going to do the biggest PNG we can, which is 512 width, and then as an SVG as well. So I'm going to export them. After I save them and organize them, I'm going to end up with this kind of filing system. I'm going to have PNGs with a background, so I exported them with that kind of white around them, but I also exported them without the background, so they're just plain in the background. And then you can see that for every version you have one with a fill in the shadow, one with a fill only, shadow only, and nothing at all. So now you have gained the skills necessary to create your own icon set. You saw how simple it is. And the more you do it, the more you practice, the better you'll get at it. And once you have those guidelines set, I'm using 1 pixel rounded corners, my lines are always 1 pixel, and I'm using center aligned for my lines. You can keep adding onto your icon set as necessary. My icon set is available on my Etsy store. And like I said at the start, the guide is also available on my Figma community profile and in the description box. Make sure to share your links below so we can all have a look at your amazing icons. Check out the rest of my videos on the pen tool and more passive income ideas for designers. Hope you enjoyed. Please like and subscribe. See you at the next one.